Hybrid editing made easy.
This hybrid photography vlog post is brought to you by ProShow.
Photodex.com.
I'm Carol, and basically, I'm just really new to the video portion of being a hybrid photographer. And those of you who have seen my posts before really know how new I am to this whole video thing. And I'm loving it. I'm also realizing just how uneducated I am. And although I could have done what my mom taught me, look it up, I didn't. I'm fortunate and blessed to have friends in high places. And one of them is Mark Toll, who's with me today. And Mark, in addition to working for Panasonic, is a hybrid hero and writes posts and vlogs posts for discovermirrorless.com, like I do. Because of his most awesome association with Panasonic, and I think he'll tell you himself, he's not here for Panasonic, he's here as Mark, but he's got the background and the education in the GH3, all of it, including all the video stuff. And so I kind of went to him and said, really, I did. And it was at a time when I was like running out the door to shoot something in the dark, and it was going to be horrible. And I said, help me get through this, and then let's sit down and help me understand so I don't have to make this call every time I have a new situation. I just need to get it. And I'm blessed. Mark said yes. So I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself, and then we're going to start digging into video on the GH3.
Hi, thanks, Carol. Obviously, I'm Mark, and I work for Panasonic. That's my main job. I work in Portland, Oregon. I do sales support for cameras, and I'm kind of the camera expert out here in this part of the world. I was a professional photographer for years, worked in photo labs, managed photo labs for years, so I've got a lot of photo experience. I've been doing video for, about 1.5 years or 2 years, not a tremendously long time, and using the GH3. And again, as Carol said, I work for Panasonic, but what I say is not, let's not say authorized by Panasonic, but it's not cleared by Panasonic, or so if there's a detail that's slightly off, don't blame them, write me. Okay.
And here we are, one more time to talk video and the GH3. And this time, as well, I should say, as before, my guest and the guy who knows the stuff that I don't get is Mark Toll. And we're going to talk about, and let me get my language correct here. I'm on the wrong screen on my menu. We are going to talk about recording quality. This entire conversation is going to be about recording quality. Now, we can't exactly talk about it without talking about the modes, because you get different recording quality options with the different modes. And I'm sure Mark will be able to complicate it further with things I can't even think of.
Actually, I hope I can simplify it. but
you know what I mean? Different things kind of impinge on or have a relationship to what we're talking about. So I don't know how Mark wants to handle this. Do you want to talk about the start with one of the modes and then talk about the settings that are available?
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar, you know. So why don't we go to the manual video mode?
Okay.
Because if somebody's going to be changing these, a lot of times that's where they're going to be changing it. But keep in mind they're available in the Intelligent Auto and the program, but they're very similar. Okay. Once you have an understanding of one, it's easy to apply to the others. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so
yeah, that's perfect.
We're in the manual video, the M with the video camera.
Right.
Pointing correctly there, okay. And then we're in the motion picture record mode. Okay, and we're going to go over to move. So, I'm sorry, we're going to start with MP4 in the middle there.
Okay.
Okay, now when we go down to the next setting down, the reason we did that, the reason we started in the MP4 or any of the others is it affects the choices we have in the recording quality. Okay?
Right.
So we go over to the right in the recording quality. Okay? And Panasonic has done a nice thing here where they've explained what this mode does, but I'm going to explain it even further.
I was going to say they did a nice job, but I don't speak the language yet.
No,
so
exactly. They did a nice job, but not a complete job. They did the best they could.
Well, once we have the information and we speak the language, it'll all be good. It's just right now I can't zero in on what it all means, so exactly. I can't wait.
Okay, so let's start at the bottom in these settings. Okay, so we're in the MPEG, or the I always get MPEG 4 or whatever. So we're in the MP4, and I'm at the bottom setting here. Okay, which is it should say 640 by 480 30p at the top. Yeah. Okay, so what that means, that's your frame size. So that's 640 pixels by 480 pixels. Which
kind of a small old monitor size.
Oh, exactly. You know, that's
a computer monitor.
Yep. This is what digital cameras shot up until about 2004, and it's what a lot of cell phones shoot. They don't shoot a lot higher than this. Okay, and so what this does is it gives you it's 30 frames per second. That's the 30p.
That's the 30p.
Yeah, and it's 4 megabits per second, which is very low. Okay. So you're going to get not a lot of depth of color. You're going to get some jaggies. It's just not a lot of information. Okay. So nowadays, I don't really know what that would be good for. Okay. If you were only sending it to a cell phone and you wanted to get as much video on a card as possible, that's the place to go. But I would recommend.
That's pretty awful.
I would recommend not using that. Okay.
What is the image sensor output? What does that mean?
That image sensor output is 30p, so that's 30 frames. The P means progressive. Progressive means that it's easier to explain. Interlaced is how old TVs used to be, you know, the ones with the big tubes in them. Interlaced would paint one picture at a time. Yes, exactly. Progressive shows one full frame at a time, okay? And the benefit to this, so there's 30 interlaced. So if you see, let's say, a little eye next to that, which we'll see in a few minutes, that means interlaced. The difference between interlaced and progressive, when you show it on a big screen, or even on a small screen, a good example would be, let's say you were videoing a building that had a lot of windows that had very straight lines in them, and you panned. In the interlaced one, they would look like they had little stair steps to them. And in the progressive one, they would look very smooth. So I like to use progressive when I can. So TVs are now, well, a lot of TV that you watch is still interlaced, even though it's digital, even though you're watching it on a progressive TV, it's interlaced. So it's not something that you have to stay away from. In fact, a lot of video that you see on TV, and probably not in the movies, but on TV, is shot in the 60 interlaced format.
Huh.
So don't necessarily, avoid it, but keep in mind progressive is a little bit better. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a 30p here with our, what does it say, image sensor output. What is the 30p up in the top line then? We're talking about.
That's the same thing, but the sensor doesn't always have to output what the camera's recording. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
They can be separate, but let's not go down that road too far though. Okay, because that's okay. It's good information, but it's not necessary information. It's more important to remember what progressive and interlaced are, and progressive will give you a. Right. Which of the two should I pay attention to then? The 30p on the top line or the 30p on the second line? Well, let's go up to some more settings, and we'll talk about that and see.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the one above it. Okay. So the one above it is 1280 by 720p. Okay. At 30p. So this is 30 frame progressive, but it's now 720. So it's 720 pixels high and 1080 wide. Okay. So the nice thing about this format is, okay, so think of this. So you're shooting. Let's think of our highest resolution, which is 1920 by 1080. Okay, sorry, always a little dyslexia there. Okay, so if we go to 1280 by 720, we're reducing the amount of pixels a lot that we're recording. The benefit to that is that it gives you a smaller file. The drawback to it is you lose a little bit of resolution. But nowadays, everything that our customers are looking at, from their iPad to their phone to putting it on Vimeo or YouTube, is not more than 720 in most cases. So actually, everything that we shoot to put online can be shot at 720p. It gives you a smaller file. Okay. The reason that I like it is because it's faster to work with. It's a smaller file, so when I'm working with it on my computer, I can actually, it previews faster, I can do faster editing and things like that. But again, let's go to the top setting. Okay, and here's where neurotic Mark comes in, who likes to shoot everything at the highest resolution. Okay, so this is 1920 by 1080. Okay, so this is the resolution of the highest resolution TV at the moment. Okay, that's going to change soon, but let's stay there. Now, the problem with this is it takes up a lot of space on your card because you're obviously shooting more pixels.
Right.
And you're going to throw most of them away when you convert it to Vimeo or YouTube or ProShow Producer. You're not going to be doing that at 1080p. Okay? So, but I like, and I don't mind, if you could see my office, I have 6 hard drives around me here. I don't mind saving those big files, but if you do a lot of shooting like you do, you might want to think about 720p because most people can't tell the difference. Okay. So anyways, that's the same thing. So now but see, also our megabits have gone up to 20 megabits per second from 4. So we're capturing a smoother video not only because we have more pixels, but because we're transferring more megabits per second to the card, which I want to stop here just for a second and mention that as you start to shoot in these higher megabit per second settings, you have to have really fast cards. So that's where the 90 megabit per second cards come in and things like that. So that's another choice there. But keep in mind that for most of what we do nowadays, 720p is fine, 1280 by 720. Okay. So now let's go back up. So that covers those formats. So let's back up and go up to the AVC HD format. So we're going to go to record quality, okay, and then down to AVC HD, and you see there's more choices here. Okay, so what we have is, so under AVC HD, we're going to start at the bottom again.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay,
yeah,
so
that's perfect.
We've got 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second, 24p, progressive, okay? Now, a lot of people will tell people, and I get this a lot at shows, somebody will come up and say, oh, they told me to shoot everything at 24p. What 24p is considered to be a cinematic quality. So have you ever noticed that when you're watching, let's say, a movie, it's not as sharp, it looks more moody, you get the atmosphere more, as opposed to when you're watching a soap opera or the news, and it's a lot sharper, it's a lot like harder edged. Okay? Yes. So if you want that cinematic quality, if you're shooting your masterpiece, okay, and you don't have a lot of fast motion going on in it, shoot at 24p. It gives you a film type look. It's very, very natural motion. It's a beautiful place to shoot if you're shooting a movie. Okay. The frame rate is a little low though, so if you've got a lot of action going on, you'll get blurry pictures. Okay. So let's go up one to 1920 by 1080 60i. So this is an interlaced mode. Okay. This again, it outputs at 30p, which is interesting. Okay.
Okay, so let me remember something that you taught me a while ago, and that is about my shutter speed needing to be double my frame rate. Right. In this case, where we have the 30p, and we're talking about 30 frames per second, I need a shutter speed of 60.
Yes, yes.
So I'm not doubling the 60.
I'm sorry, I was thinking, no, you're doubling the 60 on this one. Yeah.
Ah.
No. Yeah, you're doubling the 60.
I asked. So yeah. I am going for the 120 on this one because my frame rate is 60 frames per second, even if they're interlaced.
Right.
But the output is different somehow.
Yeah, and you know, this is a very nice setting because think of it also. So think of 30. You have 24p, 30p, and then 60p, so frames per second. Think again. So you're shooting 24 2-megapixel pictures a second, 32 megapixels, or 60. The reason a lot of people use 30 is it doesn't take up as much space. It gives you more on the card. So if you can shoot at 1280 by 720 at 30 frames per second, you'll get more on your card, and you'll probably get as good a quality as you need. Okay. So this is not a bad place to shoot. Okay. 30 p or 30 frames per second is a kind of an industry standard. A lot of movies are shot at that. The trouble is, the higher you go with the, there's a tendency to think that, okay, if I go to 60p, and then why can't I go to 120p, right? Because we're all photographers, and the higher we go, the sharper our picture is going to be. The trouble is, it looks unnatural when you do it in video. It looks too sharp, and so you start to get a picture that, again, just looks like a soap opera, or you're watching the Home Shopping Network or the news, where it's a little over. It's hard to explain why over sharp is not great. But next time you watch a movie on your TV, notice that each frame is not incredibly sharp. But again, for the skiing pictures you do, you'd probably want to shoot at 60p if you can. Just so you get those 60 frames, you get a faster shutter speed in there and get more stop action. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. More sense than it's made until today. This is awesome.
Now, you'll notice also here in this format, our megabits per second going up from the MP4 format. It's higher in AVC HD. Again, we're capturing more information. We're going to get a better looking, smoother video. Okay. Okay, now as I go up to 1920 by, did we do this one yet? The 1920 by 1080 at 60i, and that's got a 60p output. So that, again, would be 1/20th of a second. Okay, but it would, this one, as opposed to the one before it, the one before it is putting out 30 frames per second, so more video per card. If you go to this higher quality one, you're putting out 60 frames per second, takes up more card space. Okay. Yes, it gives you a smoother, kind of sharper video, but it's a sacrifice. All these are a sacrifice. As you move up the ladder in each of these menus, you get less video per minute or megabyte of card size. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to record mode again. One up from there, and let's go up to my new favorite format, the MOV. Now, the first thing that comes up, and it says a high-performance PC, right, is required to play or edit. Most of us nowadays have a faster PC. This is a warning so that if you do bring it into your computer and you're using a 6 or 7-year-old computer, or let's say a slow laptop, it could drive you crazy. Okay, so I just say yes to this. This is a bit of a it's a bit of like a disclaimer that we have to put on there. So because people will call up and go, geez, I've got this HP laptop from 2006 and it's not running on here, And you can say, well, we had a warning about that, So go back to AVC HD or go back to MP4. Okay. So again, now we're going to go down one and over to record quality. And we're going to go down to the bottom, okay? And there is now 6 settings here, okay? So these are very similar. So the move formats are similar to the AVC HD, okay? So the first one down there is, oops, I didn't go all the way down here, is 1280, is 720p, 1280 by 720, okay? And that's the same thing. That is, wait, do they start? Hold on a second. They start the other way here. The top is the lowest resolution. So can we go back there for just a second, where we go up to the one under record quality that says 1920 by 1080 at 60p? This one here?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so basically, again, same menu system. This is high resolution, full HD, they call it. Plain HD means 720p. FHD, full HD means 1080p. So again, here's our sensor output at 60 megabits, 60 frames per second. 1/20th of a second would be our shutter speed. But look at where our megabit per second went. It went to 50. Okay. Yeah. It's going to give you a much richer picture, much more detail, much less artifacts in it, okay? But a bigger file, okay? So now as we move down to the next one, make sure I'm doing it. Okay, see, the next one is very similar. It's 1920 by 1080, 30p, right? And at 30 frame per second output, but it's 72 megabits per second all intra. Okay. Now, the beauty of the MOV format, MOV format, is that it looks at each frame separately as far as compression, but that also makes for bigger files. So the all intra format, when it says all intra at the bottom, that means it's literally looking at every frame and compressing it individually and doing the best job it can to retain the quality of that video. This is where it's going to slow your computer way down, and it's going to use up memory card like crazy.
And let me just interject while I was listening, because this is pretty important for some of the kind of shooting that I do.
Yeah.
The top option, which was 920 or 1920 by 1080, 60p, 50 megabits per second, gave me in the area of 42 minutes on a 32 gig card. When I set it to the next one down, that is the all intra,
Yes.
I only get 29 minutes on my 32 gig card.
Exactly. Less than a minute.
Not quite half,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's much less.
It's huge. Yeah.
And I mean that really helps me. I'm a visual learner in some ways, and it helps me to see that, or just to be able to imagine. You know, I get this much on one card, and I get this much on when I use the other setting. I mean, it's a, you know.
Now I think of the all intra settings as being for the person who's making a movie, not the type of stuff like you're shooting and I'm shooting. Because a lot of times, not only do you need a more powerful computer to do this, you need a lot more powerful software in order to take advantage of this. So I would recommend people, well, not everybody, because you know a lot of people who are buying these cameras are making movies with them. And they're going to use that all intra format. You know, my son works in the movie business, and he, you know, does colorizing on movies, and he has the equipment. You know, basically his computer is one Macintosh with 3 processors next to it that are just as big that are churning that video. But what will happen is you'll bring it into your computer, and it will just drive you crazy, the editing time, because when you go to hit play, sometimes it'll play very slowly, depending on the speed of your computer and how much RAM you have. So just keep in mind that all intra means you're shooting the highest quality video this can shoot. This is literally movie quality. You could take this into a theater and show it on a projector at 50 feet high, and it would just stun you. But for most of what we're talking about, this isn't necessary.
Right, because I mean, my audience is more likely to be, and I should say our audience, but the Discover Mirrorless audience is more likely to be photographers who are, maybe they've been doing video for a while, and maybe like me, they haven't.
Right.
So they're really new to it. We need those disclaimers that say, you know, unless you're into that high-end stuff, you need that high-end quality, and you have all the support gear.
Yes.
You know, the computer, the processor, and all that. This is for sure a setting. I might try it, but I can't imagine at this point using it.
Now, and it's the same thing too that the sort of disclaimer we gave a while ago. Before you do this, try it out. You know, because I've tried it in my Mac, because you know, there's no figures on what speed computer you need. There's none of this written down. So shoot a little bit of video. Don't shoot a lot. Don't shoot anything important. Just take it around, walk around the house with it, and then bring it into your computer and see if your software can handle it, your processor can handle it, and your RAM can handle it. If not, go back to the AVC HD format where you're getting less megabits per second, or go to the lowest setting on the MOV format. But unless you really know what you're doing, I would stay away from that all intra setting. Yeah. When you're ready,
I think that's great advice. Yeah.
When you're ready to make your feature, you know, because also, you know, when you think about it, 29 minutes on a 32 gigabyte card. I don't know how many of those cards you have. I think I've only got one of them.
I have 20.
Oh, dude. So you shoot a lot differently than I do. That's great.
I shoot differently, but like last weekend when I was doing the snow ski, ski races are divided into seeds.
Yeah.
And each seed was approximately 20 minutes long, and I could get on my 32 gig card using AVC HD at its highest 60p.
Yeah.
Okay. I was able to get an entire race on a card, and I still had an hour left.
See, yeah, that's a reason to shoot that.
I mean, that's and for the purpose that I'm shooting it, because where it took 20 minutes to do a seed, I'm still only getting, I bet there's 7 minutes of actual video there.
Exactly. And then
if you cut out all the time between the racers, you know? So I'm really shooting for these little 7-second clips.
So exactly. So I would, if I were you, I would stay at the AVC HD format and get that quality out of there, because at the amount of shooting you're doing, the processing will drive you crazy. Just importing all those images into the computer. So that's something to consider. It's not just about the cards, and then you've got the hard disks and all that. So there's just a lot of trade-offs here. So, you know, keep in mind that the MOV format is the higher quality. It's the best megabit rate. But I would stay away from the MP4 and AVC HD at either 720 or 1080, depending on what you're shooting. I would shoot 30p in any of these formats if there's not a lot of motion going on. But your stuff is...
I was going to say, though, when I translate this over to my family portrait business, and I'm looking at shooting even a toddler, you know, bopping around the studio, I could see it, and I'm only doing 10 seconds here and 10 seconds there. I could then probably experiment with an MOV at 30p.
Exactly. Yes.
But it wouldn't work at all for my snow skiers. It probably wouldn't even work for my water skiers. Too much of it is too fast.
If what you're capturing in each of those frames is too much movement, so you're better off at 60p. And again, I shoot a lot at 24p, but that's because I'm an old film person and I kind of like that look. But can I tell the difference between 24 and 30p if you put two of them in front of me and, you know, whatever? I don't know, you know? So 30p, 60p are good ones to remember, you know? Yeah.
And I think, too, and we've said it before, but I know that I was hesitant to even do the experimenting because I didn't know what I was experimenting with.
Yes.
I didn't know what the implications were.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know what to look for. So I was really very shy about it. Yeah. I feel very empowered with this information to go and try a few things. And I'll try the extremes probably, because that's where I'll see the biggest difference, especially now that I have some idea what those differences actually are.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll start to have implications for me about when I might want to choose which.
Right.
And certainly what to stay away from. Because you told me I should stay away from all interlaced unless I know what I'm doing, and we all know I don't. Yeah. I am going to shoot 10 seconds of it and see what my computer does with it.
Exactly. Yes.
Because I want to experience the effect.
Now let me. I hope this doesn't complicate things, but think of this. So let's say you're shooting the baby, you're videoing.
Yeah.
And you're shooting in the house, and you don't have a lot of light. You're using an LED, you know, or window light. One of the reasons to use 30p is your shutter speed is only a 60th.
Right.
If you were shooting 60p and your shutter speed was a 1/20th, you lose a whole stop of speed. So again, when you're skiing or outside or water skiing, why not shoot 60p? Why not shoot at 1/20th of a second? You know, you actually, you know, you just have a lot more control over your light. So also keep in mind now 24p translates to a 50th of a second. The difference between a 50th and 60th is just not that much. But at 30p, because you're shooting at a 60th, you get more light.
It's a little tiny bit mind-boggling, but it's so much more clear kind of as we've built. And for our audience, this is the kind of the end game discussion of something that started out very simply with, we overviewed the menu structure when you're in manual movie mode so that we would know all the things that we could affect and change. And then we looked at the 3 actual movie shooting modes, which is the MP4, the MOV, and the AVC HD. Then we talked about the difference between using intelligent auto versus the camera shooting modes, PS, AM, or whichever order you like to put those in, and then actually shooting manual movie mode, and why you would use which one of those 3.
And keep in mind,
then, I was just going to, just summarize wise, then we finally came to, within those 3 movie modes, there are a whole lot of different settings, which was this particular segment talking about how big 640 by 480 versus 1920 by 1080 and everything in between, and the frames per second. And it's all of those things, though, that actually come together in the end to make your choices. It isn't any one of those things.
Right.
And that's the mind-boggling part, because now I've got to let some of this settle a little bit and look at the way I'm shooting my stills and what are the implications here. Does it mean I need a second camera because I really want the camera set up for movies one way and for my stills another way? And when are the circumstances when perfectly okay to push the little red button, I'm going to get exactly what I want? So there's a lot of implications to all that information.
Right. And keep in mind, though, that when you are in, let's say, the intelligent auto mode, and you push that little red button, you can go into, we didn't cover it because it's exactly the same as the other one, but if I'm in the intelligent auto mode, I can still shoot all intro. So you can decide what quality and shutter speed you want to do when you push that red button. So keep in mind that those MOV, MP4, and AVC HD settings are available in every one. So don't think of that red button as being like the total. Again, I have so many people who come up, and professional photographers like to call it the idiot button, and it's not. It's pretty smart if you go into the menu and make it that way.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I didn't include that in my summary, and it is a really important point that even in the most automated mode the camera offers, we still can make decisions about how we want things to turn out. We still have that much control, especially on the movie front here. And that's not something that had occurred to me before. I have shot plenty of little videos in Intelligent Auto, and I never realized how much control I had until today.
Yes.
So it's a really valid point, and oh my goodness. There's just a lot.
I hope we haven't overwhelmed each other and the audience here.
You know what, though? A little overwhelmed usually settles into some nice, solid knowledge base that lets you go out and do the kind of experimentation that these cameras, with all their power, encourage.
And I'm going to interject one more thing, which is going to make me think of me as a stupid male for not figuring this one out. Okay, is when I go out and try. I've been doing the same thing you do. I try 70 megabits per second, and I try this. There's not good EXIF data. And again, I feel like I'm totally sounding stupid about this. Speak into the microphone what your setting is.
You know what? I have done that.
Yeah.
Because, like you, I went and looked for EXIF data, and there wasn't really anything there. And then it's like, what did I just shoot?
Exactly.
So that's what I've been doing.
I just say 1920 by 1080, 60p at 24 megabits per second or whatever it is, and that's it.
But it does. It identifies what that's a sample of,
right.
So that you know how to make your comparison when you're actually working with it after the fact.
Yes.
So no, that's not just a boy thing. That's anybody who's really doing. I mean, it's a learning thing. It's an exercise that, especially, I think, I was a photographer. I'm now a hybrid photographer, and the new part of my craft, I'm on a steep learning curve, and anything I can do to make it easier, like labeling my videos with how I took them, so that I can clearly do a comparison and understand maybe even why I can't edit the darn thing. It was interlaced or all interlaced and or all intra, and I just couldn't do it. Well, maybe then I should stay away from it, not because Mark said don't do it if you don't know what you're doing, but because I tried it and I don't have a computer that's capable of handling it. Exactly. So why put myself through that?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Why do that? Why make our lives harder than they already are, right?
Exactly. But I have to thank Mark, heart and soul, for all the time that you have dedicated to my little project of let's get smarter about video. Even though I say my head is spinning, part of that's because I don't know where I even want to start. I have so many things now that I want to try and do, not necessarily differently, but that I want to take this information and turn it into hands-on knowledge, where I actually go and I shoot it and I do it and I go, yup. Now that I know something about it, I see the differences, and now I see stylistically and maybe pragmatically, because I tend to be a pretty practical girl. I don't want to have to start shooting 64 gig cards and owning 20 of them.
Right, exactly. Or buying hard drives every time you do a shoot. Yeah.
Yes, I did one baby and I needed 3 hard drives. Probably don't want to go down that road, but now that I know the implications, it's really going to help me make good, conscious decisions, which will help me make better and more creative products, and that's what it's all about in the end.
Exactly.
It's coming out with those great products.
Yeah, it's the end result.
Mark, yeah, it is. And bless you and thank you for everything.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah. Great.
Awesome. To our audience, my standard farewell to you all. Shoot lots. Remember the video, especially after today, and keep dreaming.
Hybrid editing made easy.
This hybrid photography vlog post is brought to you by ProShow.
Photodex.com.